Well, this is Cessna and this is AP and U. Basically and hopefully a short guide on how to and when to use AP in World of Warships. Pretty much every ship in World of Warships that is not an aircraft carrier has a choice to use AP. Some, like the British light cruisers, do not get a choice and can only use AP. The point is, AP is a really strong weapon and should be used every time that it is possible. So when is it possible to use AP? The following videos will show and illustrate when, where and how to use it. And good side note on AP and why it should be used is because the damage it does is more meaningful. Only 50% of penetrations can be healed, unlike fires and flooding, which can be healed 100%. The rules for AP are generally fairly easy, and these will be reiterated through the video, but they are as follows. First, you need a good angle, usually between 60 and 70 degrees. And basically, if they're showing you a 3/4 profile or more, you can penetrate. This is something you will get with experience. Secondly is that you should not fire AP if you're over penetrating, because that will lead to less damage. So you have to be mindful of the ribbons on the bottom right and see what they are telling you. But if you can penetrate, if you can guarantee a penetration, AP will not let you down. Without much further ado, let's go to Cessna live on the field. Well, this is the destroyer part of this video, covering AP. Destroyer AP is a really situational beast, and you need to be familiar with the ship itself to know when to use its AP. The captain you just heard is Kirishima. Destroyer AP is important. In the case of the Kagero, there is no special properties to it. It just fires normally, penetrates normally. It's your box standard 127mm AP. There is no special properties. I chose to use the Kagero instead of, for example, the Daring, which has better AP penetration, angles, and damage, I think, because it's the most standard. This is the baseline to which all destroyers compare. The French will have almost cruiser-like penetration. The Shermans will have good AP, good alpha, but not much more than that. So, and this cannot be stated enough, is if you can penetrate and not overpen, fire AP. And here I will get into the mechanics of angling. Here the Kremlin is basically bow on to me, so I can shoot at it. I do have the penetration to hit that, but because the angle is too great, the actual armor I'm impacting is just too much. Actually, I'm not. The armor check is not even happening. I'm just auto bouncing here. I will never penetrate. But as the angle becomes closer to 90 degrees, I will start to get penetrations. And as you can see, I just did 1500 damage. Just straight on the bow, there we go, 5000 damage. And we can keep that up until the nose saturates and damage starts becoming negligible. But that nose, actually the zone perfectly limits what you can pen and where you should be aiming. The belt of a battleship is basically impenetrable to me. I will never penetrate. I will always shatter on there. Just, it's a waste of time. The upper belt at these ranges can be penetrated. And as you can see, I'm doing damage. Same thing with the stern. If I could aim. Usually aiming on the upper part of the stern is a better idea, because most battleships will have a strip of armor running the length of the waterline that will make shells not a guaranteed pen, basically. Same thing goes for the superstructure. Because I'm using a destroyer caliber guns, I have penetration to get to the superstructure, but I will usually not overpen, though I am at the moment. In this case, because I am overpenning, I should switch to HE. Yep, completely overpenning the superstructure. I should switch to HE, sorry. Closing thoughts regarding the destroyer AP penetration and its usage is to be successful with AP in destroyers. What's important is to keep in mind your engagement range, your detection, if it's worthy to pursue the gun battle in question, and to basically keep in mind those factors. What's your effective engagement range will vary from destroyer to destroyer, and only experience will tell you, but in general it's around 7 or so kilometers. Further than that, and you're usually just wasting shots unless you're spamming HE safely from smoke or behind an island at a relatively stationary target. Now, heavy cruiser AP. As a heavy cruiser, you should always be looking for chances to use your armor piercing, because if all you want to do is spam high explosive, the light cruisers and some destroyer lines will serve you better, to be honest. That said, however, heavy cruiser AP can be devastating when used in the right set of circumstances against pretty much all targets. Here I'm using the Saint Louis, the tier 9 French heavy cruiser, which, although the French get good penetration, their armor piercing does not behave in any special way of any sort other than having good penetration. The French armor piercing is kinda like the Russian armor piercing. It's really fast and has lots of penetration. So in general, it's easy to hit things at distance, losing it. I will shoot at the bow of this Kremlin, and again I will bounce like I did previously in my destroyer, because it's two-angled. It's important to recognize these angles. Here he's at around 20 degrees angle, and I will basically bounce every time. Unless it's a freak penetration, it just doesn't happen. But as I start making the angle greater towards 90 degrees, I will start getting penetrations, and in fact I will get over penetrations. But again, you can see that the bow is a really squishy area for battleships, especially for AP. But as a cruiser, that's not where I want to aim. As a cruiser, I want to aim there, right, or in the upper belt, because right in the upper belt is where his ship is at the widest, so I will never overpen. And secondly, there is a lot of help there. As you can see, I pretty much saturated the whole Kremlin. And that's pretty much it. There is not much more to say about heavy cruiser AP other than if you have the angles to use it and the penetration, use it, because your enemies will pay. This Kremlin is eating 5k a volley every 7 seconds. That's not something it can sustain. This is why cruisers are dangerous, because they can pump up these sort of numbers. And if I were to be playing this to actually win and kill as fast as possible, I will also be setting this guy on fire, so he will be in way worse trouble. As it is, I'm just spamming a armor piercing to show how it works, because that's what this video is about. But the rule of thumb with heavy cruisers, as I reiterate once again, is if you can hit it and if you have the angles, shoot AP. A good tactic usually to use is set it on fire and then switch to AP if you can. That way you keep on stacking damage. Though, again, AP should only be used if you can guarantee a penetration. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And to close up this series, I'll end up with a light cruiser demonstration. I will not do battleships because basically as a battleship you will always have the penetration to penetrate most things, and it's only a concern of angle. So basically this sort of the same rules apply than to heavy cruisers. And battleships have the added bonus of overmatching everything, so it's all a question of homing your aim and just getting down to it. Now, the British heavy light cruisers have a particular trait to them, that is because they do not have HE, they get improved AP. What this means is that their AP fuses fairly fast, which leads to almost no over penetrations. It also gets improved angles like the Americans' heavy cruisers, which can pen at angles that other heavy cruisers cannot. Which means angling against British light cruisers and American heavy cruisers should be taken with care, because exposing just a little bit too much of side to get that extra gun firing can lead to fairly disastrous consequences. Not so much with the British, because they only have 6-inch guns, that is 152mm guns, but with the Americans it is a reality that angling should be taken with the utmost care. But AP in light cruisers, as hopefully was shown previously in heavy cruisers and destroyers, is dangerous and should not be taken lightly. Because sure, at this range, gotta set down my secondaries, at this range I will be bouncing and doing nothing, but as once again, this as the angle gets better for me and worse for Light Kremlin, he will start seeing penetrations and he will start seeing nasty amounts of damage. It's just 2 penetrations and 2000 damage. This is also why you don't want to show any side to a British light cruiser. And as was exemplified with the Saint Louis, this is the same but worse. And keep in mind that the British do not get better penetration, they just get better penetration angles. So if the British can penetrate with these guns, pretty much all other light cruisers can. And again, you can see I'm doing massive amounts of damage, because I'm doing 10,000 damage every 10 seconds. This Kremlin literally cannot withstand this sort of abuse. light cruisers pay for this a massive amount of DPM in with basically being just a wet paper towel. If you look at them, they die, and they do take really. They really need good positioning to work, or really dumb enemies. But as you can see, I basically saturated that whole Kremlin in an instant. But the important part is, again, if I had HE in this situation were to happen in a game, I would basically just set a fire and then proceed to farm with AP, because AP does damage that sticks, unlike high explosive. Because of all the damage that you see, of all this 100,000 damage that I've done to this Kremlin, he can only heal 50,000, because it's all penetration damage, and that's what's important about AP. AP hurts more if you can make it hurt. And that's pretty much it for AP. There are more intricacies and nuances to it, but these are just the basics. Though given that it's a so far 15-minute video, I guess I'm not really good at summarizing things, but that's beyond the point. If you stuck this long, thank you for watching, and go do something productive. Like show them battleships that they don't have a monopoly on AP and make them pay.